episode contains graphic descriptions of crime and criminal activity. Listeners' discretion is advised for children under the age of 18 and for individuals who may be sensitive to the details in this episode. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Krime KE podcast. My good name is Ajuma and I am a human rights journalist from Kenya. This week, we get into the story of the disappearance of Peter Mwenda Mbijiwe, famously known as Mwenda Mbijiwe. This is a story about the mysterious disappearance of a high-profile security expert and a family's struggle to find their kin almost 5 years down the line. Mwenda Mbijiwe was born in 1970. He was the firstborn to his parents and he was raised in Kimbo village in Meru County. According to his mother, Mwenda was a cheerful person from a young age and he set a good example in terms of education for his younger siblings. He went to the University of Nairobi, where between 2014 and 2017, he pursued and attained a bachelor's degree in armed conflict and resolution. In 2020, Mbijiwe advanced his education abroad, enrolling at Tel Aviv University in Israel. There, he specialized further, graduating with a master's degree in national security and diplomacy. He joined the military quite early in his life, where he worked as a commander for the Kenya Air Force Air Defense Control Unit. He left the force in 2007 and he founded his own security consultancy firm called Eye on Security. With his experience in the army and his educational background, he was considered an expert in terrorism and national security. And at this time, there was a rise in terror attacks in Kenya, so the knowledge he had was valuable to the nation. He landed roles through his firm as a security advisor to the government at the time, and he also had a private sector clients for the same work. Now, he rose to prominence by appearing on TV and radio interviews, answering questions about his expertise in national security. In fact, his last public appearance was on a radio interview at Muga FM on June 10, 2021, where he was discussing national security. But again, remember, at the time he was coming up, there was a rise in terror attacks in Kenya. So a lot of media houses were looking to interview someone with Mwenda Mbijiwe's type of expertise. At some point, he was even considered former President Uhuru Kenyatta's informal security advisor. Aside from his security consulting job, Mwenda Mbijiwe was also a family man, a pastor, and a politician. For the most part, he kept his wife and children out of the public eye, so there is not much known about them. He served as a senior pastor at Glory Cathedral Church in Nairobi before he founded Resurrection Glory Ministries International. Now, as a politician, Mwenda Mbijiwe first ran for the Meru gubernatorial seat in 2017 elections on an ODM ticket, but he lost the seat to Kiraitu Murungi. In fact, at the time of his disappearance, he had already declared interest in running for the same seat in the 2022 elections. At the time he disappeared, Mwenda was also dealing with a fraud case in court. Now, in 2019, he was charged with fraudulently acquiring 150 Kenyan shillings from a man identified as Mohammed. Mwenda allegedly told him that he had links to the United Nations and he would use them to get his sister a job at the organization, and that is how he convinced Mohammed to pay him 150,000 Kenyan shillings. So when that didn't happen, Mohammed decided to file a fraud case against him, which had not been resolved by the time he went missing. He had pleaded not guilty and he was given a 50,000 cash bail as the case progressed. Now, let me take you to June 12th, 2021, the day that Mwenda disappeared. A businessman identified as Edward Mwangi had rented a car to Mwenda Mbijiwe, and this was the last day of the rental. He reached out to him to inquire when he planned to return the car because the rental was over and he had not communicated. Mwangi said that at first, when he called Mwenda, he said that he was at a security training session in Mombasa Road, so he would call him back when he was done. Now, later that same day at around 5:30 p.m., he said that Mwenda called him and told him that he wanted to extend his rental on the car. Mwangi said that he told him that he needed to visit a relative who was sick in Meru, and that was why he needed the extension. Now, Mwangi said that he had no reason to doubt Mwenda because he had been referred to him by a mutual friend, someone who he trusted, and Mwenda had also paid half of the money for the rental, so he had not really given him a reason to doubt that he would return the vehicle or pay for the extension. Also, Mwangi had a tracker on the vehicle, so he could see the movements of the vehicle wherever Mwenda went. According to Mwenda's mother, that Saturday evening, Mwenda had actually planned to travel to Meru because he was planning his campaign for the upcoming elections. And he was also working on a project to drill a borehole in his mother's home, so he wanted to get the project going. That is why he needed to travel to Meru. His mother said that by 6 p.m., Mwenda was on his way to Meru, so she prepared food for him and she expected that he would arrive at home at around 10 p.m. that night. But by 10 p.m., Mwenda had not arrived home. His phone was not going through, and even though his mother was worried, she went to sleep for the night, hoping to get some communication by the next morning. She only got more worried when she woke up to no Mwenda, no communication, and the fact that he was not responding to calls or messages made the situation worse. At first, his mother said that he assumed that Mwenda had probably gotten into an accident, so he reached out to the police to ask whether there had been any accident on the Nairobi-Meru route the previous night. The police confirmed that there was no reported accidents, and you can imagine how the family felt hearing this news. Mwenda's mother said that they searched for him in police stations, hospitals, prisons, and even mortuaries, but he was nowhere to be found. They immediately knew something was wrong and they tried to file a missing persons report for him. According to Mwenda's mother, when she first reported to the police, she was told that since he was a full-grown adult, she had to wait at least 72 hours to report him missing. So she did just that. She went home, worried, and waited until Thursday, June 17th, when they went to Kasarani police station and filed a missing persons report. Now, at Kasarani, they were told to go to Central Police Station in Nairobi CBD. So they did just that. You can see how they're being moved around a lot. According to a Facebook post by Mwenda's sister, he reached out to one of the family members and disclosed his whereabouts in his last communication. Now, the sister did not say what Mwenda told the family member, but she said that that was the last time the family heard from him. The last known sighting of Mwenda Mbijiwe was at Roysambu along Thika Road, and his last phone signal was traced to Thika in Kiambu County. According to witnesses, 2 plainclothes police officers stopped his car at the Roysambu roundabout as he was driving to Meru. An affidavit filed by Mbijiwe's family lawyer alleged that police abducted him at Roysambu and he was whisked away in an unmarked vehicle. Now, for the longest time, Mwenda's family has believed that the police are holding him unconstitutionally, something that the police have consistently denied. His mother believed that something may have happened between him and the government in his line of work, and they just decided to detain him because he had actually complained that his life was in danger just a few days before his disappearance. The family lawyer said that Mwenda had reported that he was receiving death threats several times at Central Police Station before he was disappeared. In one interview, Mwenda's brother said that his son was taken by former DCI Director George Kinoti and he was taken to the National Intelligence, investigated, and found not guilty. For which crime exactly? We don't know. She told the media, quotes, "Mwenda's disappearance was not an accident. There are 3 prominent people from Meru behind his abduction." Mwenda's mother has been at the forefront of the fight to locate Mwenda Mbijiwe and bring him back home. She said that the first person she sought help from was the DCI director at the time, George Kinoti, who she said was also a good friend of Mwenda's. She said that was the beginning of the psychological torture that their family would endure at the hands of the justice system. She said she was sent from one office to another with none of the authorities actually giving her any substantial help. In her own words, she said that she has gone to every office in the country that she could go to and she has not been helped, but she believes that the government is holding Mwenda. She has consistently accused the police of taking Mwenda and covering up everything, even interfering with the judiciary. In fact, she says that she believes that Mwenda is still alive and is being held by the government. Now, remember Mwangi, the guy who rented the car to Mwenda? He tried to track the vehicle after he went missing. The tracking showed that the vehicle was in Kasarani area at around on June 18th, which was 6 days after Mwenda disappeared. Later, the tracking device indicated that the car was in Kahawa West, and it was eventually located in the Kamiti Corner area. The car was found vandalized. The car door was vandalized, the car keys were missing, and the radiator had also been unplugged. When that happened, when Mwangi found the car, he presented himself at the DCI offices in Nairobi to clarify why he was tracking Mwenda's vehicle. Now, to Mwenda's family, it felt like the police were not doing enough to find him. So his mother, through the family lawyer, filed a lawsuit seeking the court's intervention to force the government to release Mwenda. They filed what is known as habeas corpus, which is a court filing that is meant to compel police to present a detainee in court. They demanded that Mwenda be released from unlawful custody so that he could be dealt with legally. They explained that his continued disappearance was violating his constitutional rights, and they wanted the courts to compel the government to release him. Now, 7 months after his disappearance in January 2022, his brother even walked from Meru County to the DCI headquarters in Nairobi to try and pile pressure on the police to release Mwenda, but nothing happened. In October last year, the High Court ordered that the Inspector General of Police and the Director of Public Prosecutions produce Mwenda in court within 7 days, dead or alive. This order did not yield anything because Mwenda is still missing to date, but also because the police have been adamant that they do not have Mwenda. On December 3rd last year, the Milimani High Court, through Justice Laurent Mugambi, summoned the Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, and the current DCI Director, Mohamed Amin, to appear in court on December 16th so that they can explain why no progress has been made in the case. That court order was defied by both of them. Neither of them showed up to court, and Mwenda's family lawyer even asked the court to issue arrest warrants for the DCI Director and the IG of Police for that, but the court also declined that request. There have been allegations that the government interfered with the judiciary in this case, specifically coming from the lawyer handling Mwenda's case. He said in one interview that the judiciary should be left to independently handle the case without politics, and insisted that the court orders provided by the court should be obeyed. One thing that stood out was that in his last Facebook post, Mwenda was not very pleased with the judiciary either. On 11th June, the day before he disappeared, he posted a critical message directed at the judiciary for nullifying the Building Bridges Initiative, or the BBI, if you remember at the time. Now, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions told the court that it intends to open a formal inquiry into Mwenda's disappearance, but by the time of the recording of this episode, No arrest or any significant progress has been made in this case. The one lingering question from this case is how a security expert who more or less predicted danger for a living and carried a legal weapon was ambushed and disappeared for more than 5 years. Mwenda Mbijiwe was 51 years old when he went missing, and he would be 55 years old by the time of this recording. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this episode. You can support Krime KE podcast by sharing this episode with your friends so that we can build a larger community to listen to these cases. On TikTok and Instagram, we are at krime.ke. On Facebook, you can find me at Ajuma Millicent. I have tagged the podcast contact information and social media pages on the show notes of this episode so that it is easier for you to reach out if you have any feedback on this episode or the podcast in general. We also have a WhatsApp number, which I have put in the show notes of this episode. You can send in voice notes, suggest cases, and give feedback. Do not forget to give the podcast a 5-star rating on Spotify, and catch the next episode of Krime KE podcast on Thursday next week on the same platform that you're listening from right now. But until then, stay safe and remember, it is crime with a K.